Well, the White House appealing to Congress for an authorization of force in Syria. Earlier today, Republican Senator John McCain saying that the administration has its work cut out for it.
We're in a bit of a dilemma here because I think Senator Lindsey Graham and I and others will be wanting a strategy, a plan, rather than just we're going to launch some cruise missiles and that's it.
Daniel Garza, he's the executive director of the LIBRE initiative and a Republican congressional candidate in Texas in 2010. And Chris Kofinas, he is a former chief of state to Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there was the first classified briefing. It was held today, let out just a short time ago. About 60 to 70 legislators attended, mostly House members, a few senators. What will it take for them to come together and vote in favor of military action in Syria? Do you believe that that is possible? Chris, I'll start with you.
Well, I think it is possible, but, this is one of those, rare issues where you have this kind of strange mixture of opposition both on the left and the right, on the Dem and the Republican side. You saw it today with, John McCain on Face the Nation, where, he's obviously a hawk. But even he is, reserving judgment in terms of whether he'll support this resolution because he wants stronger action. There are going to be others who are going to be arguing for no action, some in between for very limited and defined action. So part of I think the challenge the administration is going to have in the coming week or so, especially as these hearings happening, is going out there and making their case, not only to these members of Congress, but more importantly to the American people who still have more questions than answers, I think, when it comes to this Syrian engagement.
And Daniel, what do you think? What do you think will happen once it goes into the hands of Congress?
I would agree with my fellow panelists. I would also say that it's going to be actually, I think, much more difficult than a lot of folks realize. This is a Congress that is very polarized at this point, and I think it's been polarized because of this administration's penchant to demonize opposition with a domestic policy, and I think that may reverberate here and have repercussions. So I think they're going to have to make a powerful and persuasive case that there is an American interest here. Frankly, Syria has not attacked us. There's no threat that they're going to attack us. So I think they're going to have to make their case in a different method. It's going to prove difficult.
And Chris, earlier we were talking about what was going on inside at least this first initial briefing, and Catherine Herridge talked about the 4 pillars of evidence that were presented to lawmakers. One, what chemical weapons were used, the delivery system that was used, the chain of custody, who ordered the attack. What do you think will be the most important evidence presented to members of Congress in order to sway their decision one way or another?
Well, interestingly, I think that the administration, has made a pretty strong case, and my guess is going to get even stronger in terms of the Assad regime was, behind these chemical attacks. The bigger question, I think, that a lot of members are struggling with, and some of the political folks I talk to want answers to, is what's next? So we engage in Syria and we hit them for 2 or 3 days. Then the question is, what's the big strategic outcome? And I think that's what the administration, has to answer. But in terms of whether the president should have gone to Congress or not, I would have to say that the president did the right thing because, you had Republicans and Democrats saying he should do this. He did it, and at a minimum, I think Congress may end up supporting this. Regardless of what happens, it bolsters his credibility that he's pursuing this road.
And Daniel, I will mention something that Senator John McCain had said earlier. He said that this was a political move more than a military move by the president. Do you agree?
It may very well have been so, but I have to agree. I do give credit to the president that he shows to honor the Constitution in this case, and I think he is strengthened by it. And I think that if he can achieve, the approval of Congress to declare war or military actions against Syria, he is going to be strengthened by it. And I think he'll have the support of the American people who are currently polling against any action against this military decision that the president has taken to Congress. So I applaud him for that. I commend him for that. But again, I think he has a long way to go to get to the approval.
But why is he doing it this time when so many other times before he's overstepped the authority of Congress?
Look, I think he looks indecisive. I think he is struggling with what to do, and I think the world sees it. So I think at this point, my sense is that the Republicans are going to, at the end, ultimately going to vote yes. and approve this decision by the president to move forward, because they don't want to undermine, I think, the power of the presidency, and the world's eyes are on America, and we don't want to lose credibility in a case like this, where I think we are seen as a superpower, and we have to step up.
Chris, what if Congress does vote no? Then what does the president do? Has he backed himself into a corner?
Well, that would be a pretty bad outcome. We already saw what happened.
But it's a possibility.
Yeah, it's an absolute possibility. I mean, people, I think, I have to understand what is going to happen here is not just a simple, up or down vote. There are going to be hearings held. There's going to be testimony. There's going to be, there's going to be a debate about what the resolution language should be. A lot of this may change back and forth. So this is a long ways from being over. But if he gets turned, if this vote fails, it will not be good. And then the president, I think, is in a very difficult spot where he probably has to go at it alone, literally without any congressional support. So I don't think that is going to happen, but it all depends on how the next week or so evolves and how strong, these answers are to some of these, pretty complex, difficult questions.
He's made it clear he believes that he does have that authority, and some say he drew the red line on his own without consulting Congress. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.